Summary Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Book link. Click here. Here is a summary of the key points. Happiness has been a central human concern for centuries, yet we still do not fully understand how to attain it. Despite tremendous material and scientific progress, many people feel unfulfilled and anxious today. This suggests we may be looking for happiness in the wrong places. The author discovered through years of research that happiness is not something that just happens or that can be bought. Instead, it must be prepared for and cultivated. It depends on how we interpret events, not on the events themselves. Happiness cannot be achieved by consciously searching for it. It emerges as a byproduct of being fully involved in life's details, both good and bad. Success and happiness cannot be pursued directly, they must ensue. The path to happiness begins with achieving control over our consciousness and perceptions. Our views about our lives result from many influences, but we can choose to transcend limitations imposed by our surroundings and gain more control. This control allows us to align our awareness with our goals and values. When this alignment occurs, we experience flow, a state of total absorption in an activity. Flow leads to enjoyment and happiness. The elements that foster flow include clear goals, immediate feedback, a challenge that matches our skills, and no worries about failure. Activities that produce flow for individuals differ based on personal interests and talents. In summary, the author argues that by controlling our consciousness and cultivating flow, we can actively make our lives more meaningful and fulfilling. This is the path to finding happiness. There are many external forces that influence how we feel, and most of these forces are outside of our control. We can't control things like our genetics, environment, temperament, etc. However, we are capable of having optimal experiences where we feel in control and emotionally fulfilled. These occur when we are fully immersed in challenging activities that match our skills. Examples include a sailor navigating rough waters, an artist painting, or a father making a child smile for the first time. Optimal experiences can be difficult and physically taxing at the moment but lead to a lasting sense of enjoyment, mastery, and participation in life. They are self-created through volitional effort and overcoming challenges. Research on flow and optimal experience has found that people describe these experiences in similar ways regardless of culture, gender, age, etc. Flow theory suggests that structuring life to increase flow experiences increases happiness and life satisfaction. Flow theory has many applications, including improving education, training business leaders, designing products and services, psychotherapy, and helping disabled and elderly populations. This book aims to show how to increase the flow of experiences and happiness through self-awareness and conscious control of one's inner life. It will discuss how the mind works and the process of mastery over consciousness. Happiness comes from within, not from external sources. Readers must reflect on their own experiences to benefit. The optimal state involves ordering one's consciousness by directing attention and psychic energy towards realistic goals matched to skills. This produces flow experiences. Pursuing meaningful goals organizes awareness. The universe was not designed to satisfy human needs and desires. Life is full of difficulties and chaos that stand in the way of happiness and fulfillment. The forces of nature are indifferent to human well-being. While we can work to prevent catastrophes, improve society, and meet basic needs, feeling good ultimately comes down to how our mind interprets our experiences. Achieving happiness and meaning depends on cultivating inner harmony. Most people just want to survive, support a family, and find some comfort. But as soon as basic needs are met, desires escalate. With greater affluence come greater expectations and restlessness. People adapt to improvements in lifestyle and always want more. This hedonic treadmill makes lasting contentment challenging. True happiness comes from experiencing flow, exercising control over consciousness, pursuing meaningful goals, and finding purpose. External conditions are secondary. Though life is hard, we can achieve fulfillment through growth and by making the most of our circumstances. We must learn to enjoy normal activities, improve relationships, transform work into purposeful action, and create meaning by achieving small flow experiences and pursuing autotelic, self-focused goals each day. We gain inner harmony. Though the universe may be indifferent, we can lead lives worth living. Fulfillment comes from within, not from controlling external forces. By accepting difficulties and focusing on positive experiences, we can achieve happiness. As material comforts and technological progress increase, people's expectations and desires also escalate endlessly, making true satisfaction elusive. This paradox of rising expectations suggests that continually improving quality of life and achieving a sense of well-being may be very difficult. The problem arises when people become so focused on what they want to accomplish in the future that they cease to derive pleasure from the present. Those unable to escape this frustrating treadmill of rising expectations sacrifice their chance at contentment. However, some individuals are able to find contentment and satisfaction, remaining open to new experiences, maintaining solid relationships, and staying engaged with the world around them. They seem to have a sense of control over their lives that protects them from chaos and adversity. Cultures have developed myths, belief systems, and practices over time to shield people from chaos and give them a sense of purpose and security. However, an unrealistic faith in these cultural shields can lead to anxiety and disillusionment when they ultimately fail. Many today feel exposed to chaos due to the decline of traditional order and meaning provided by factors like religion, ethnic traditions, and social class. As people age, they often face an increasing sense of life's meaninglessness and mortality, realizing that the affluent, scientific, and sophisticated world they had anticipated would provide happiness ultimately cannot. People react in different ways: the renewed pursuit of possessions and status, efforts to directly address threatening symptoms like aging or lack of purpose, or surrender in the face of life's demands. But none of these strategies provide a holistic solution. In summary, while rising material and technological progress aims to improve the quality of life, for many, it has failed to provide happiness and meaning. Cultural, social, and individual strategies for protection from chaos and mortality are proving insufficient. A sense of life's meaninglessness persists for many. Life has lost meaning and purpose for many in modern society. People turn to various escapes like drugs, alcohol, entertainment, etc. to fill the void, but these do not provide lasting fulfillment. Traditional institutions like religion that used to provide meaning are no longer compelling or satisfying for many. While they may provide temporary solace, they do not give permanent answers. There are many disturbing social trends indicating people are not flourishing, including rising rates of poverty, crime, mental illness, paranoia, and decreasing education. The future does not look promising, as even youth show increasing signs of distress and pathology. More children are growing up with only one parent, and there are rising rates of issues like drug use, suicide, incarceration, etc., among teens. Individuals must take control of their experiences themselves to overcome this state of affairs. Psychology can help by showing how to create meaning and purpose regardless of external circumstances. This requires a significant shift to focus on the present moment rather than future rewards. Society and human biology have conditioned people to postpone gratification and focus on future rewards. But to live fully, people must gain autonomy from social controls and learn to find meaning in the present. This is challenging but possible through discipline and the right mindset. The key message is that individuals must reclaim control of their experience themselves to overcome the lack of meaning and flourishing in modern life. Focusing on the present rather than future rewards and gains is crucial to this. Though difficult, it is possible with the right effort and psychology. Social control and norms are enforced through threats to our survival instinct or promises of pleasure. Politicians, corporations, and others exploit human desires and instincts to exert control over people. We often mistake our instinctual desires and attractions as expressions of our individual free will and intentions. But in reality, they are usually just the result of our genetic programming and serve the purpose of continuing our genes, not our own advantage. It is essential to recognize them as such and not blindly follow them. Submitting to our genetic programming without question leads to a lack of control and freedom. We become vulnerable and easy to exploit by others who can manipulate our desires. We should aim to achieve control over our instinctual drives. A highly socialized person only desires what society and others have told them they should expect. They overlook other potentially fulfilling experiences outside of what they have been conditioned to want. To become free, we must become less dependent on societal rewards and learn to find internal tips and meaning. The most important step to freeing oneself is learning to find rewards in the ongoing flow of life's experiences rather than constantly chasing future goals set by society. We can transform our reality by influencing our consciousness and not blindly obeying social controls or the dictates of our bodies. Many philosophies and spiritual traditions recognize the importance of controlling consciousness to achieve freedom and a good life. They provide various methods for liberating consciousness from biological and social determinism, from the tyranny of the id and the superego. The intended result is to achieve inner freedom and spontaneity. The key message is that we can achieve freedom and control over our lives by learning to govern our consciousness and not passively follow the demands of society or our instinctual programming. We must find meaning and rewards in the present flow of life rather than chasing distant goals set by others. Various philosophies and spiritual practices can help in this process of liberation. Consciousness is the result of biological processes in the brain, but it has also developed the ability to override its genetic programming and act independently. The function of consciousness is to represent information from the senses and the mind so it can be evaluated and acted upon. Without consciousness, we would react instinctively. With consciousness, we can deliberate and also create new information. Over time, the human nervous system has become very complex, allowing consciousness to impact its own states. A person can make themselves happy or unhappy regardless of external events by changing the contents of consciousness. Some people expect consciousness to accomplish unrealistic miracles or believe in mystical or supernatural phenomena like past lives or extrasensory perception. But there is no evidence to support these beliefs. While the mind can do remarkable things through extreme discipline and training, there are no shortcuts to mastering consciousness. The key to happiness and success is learning to order your consciousness, to control your feelings and thoughts. This is challenging but within the standard capabilities of the human mind. So, in summary, the passage presents a scientific perspective on consciousness as an emergent property of the brain that gives us self-reflective abilities, though some people hold mystical or unrealistic views about its powers. The key message is that mastering the contents of your consciousness through mental discipline is crucial for well-being and success. The writer argues that consciousness has significant limits in how much information it can process at any given time. Although consciousness allows us to experience and interpret events, what actually enters our consciousness is highly selective. Our consciousness creates our subjective experience of reality by filtering and shaping information from our senses. The content of our consciousness, while able to encompass a wide range of information from various senses, is not disordered or chaotic. Our intentions, whether biologically based or socially acquired, actively organize the information that enters our consciousness. They direct our attention and focus towards certain information over other data. While our intentions are often shaped by basic needs or social expectations, individuals can develop different or opposing meanings that alter how they experience and interpret events. The writer contends that expanding the scope of human consciousness indefinitely is not possible due to the limited processing capacity of the nervous system. There is a maximum amount of information that can enter and be properly handled by our consciousness before the information becomes jumbled or crowded. Although an expanded consciousness may seem appealing in some ways, our biologically based mental faculties impose constraints on consciousness that cannot be overcome. Ultimate human perfectibility or godlike abilities are unrealistic fantasies, given the natural limits of the nervous system. In summary, consciousness shapes our subjective experience of reality by selectively filtering information from our senses according to our intentions. However, there are natural limits on how much information the nervous system, and thus consciousness, can process, precluding the possibility of a vastly expanded or infinite consciousness. Our ability to process information and experiences is limited by the capacity of our central nervous system. We can consciously process only about 126 bits of data per second, which amounts to about 185 billion bits in a lifetime. This limit applies even to seemingly simple activities like listening to several people talk at once or experiencing emotions while thinking. We have to shut out most information and sensations to focus on any one thing. However, some argue our capacity is flexible and expandable through evolution and learning. We can compress lots of information into a few symbolic bits, as in language, math, stories, etc., and some mental tasks become automated, freeing our minds for more. Still, the demands of life mean we can only use part of our potential. In fact, most people don't use their total mental capacity and are easily distracted and unfocused. They spend much of their leisure time passively taking in little new information, as when watching TV. Attention is the process of selecting information and experiences to let into our consciousness. It is limited by our processing capacity and is a finite resource we can use well or poorly. Using attention well, focusing on it, avoiding distractions, continuing as needed to achieve goals, marks a person in control of their mind and life. Two examples show good and poor use of attention. A successful professional, focuses hers intensely, avoids waste, recharges briefly, and can disconnect at will to rest. Most ordinary people diffuse theirs through distractions and passive leisure, achieving little. In short, while our capacity for experience seems large, our ability to consciously process it is limited. How well we control attention, what we choose to focus on and avoid, determines what we achieve and how well we enjoy life. Some learn this control, but many do not. The author describes two acquaintances, E and R, who have sharp and focused attention. E is an imposing, forceful man who has made an impact on society. R is shy and modest but a master of obscure scholarship and poetry. Though opposite in personality, They share an unbending sharpness of attention. The author says that attention determines what enters our consciousness and shapes our lives. We can focus it like a beam of energy or diffuse it randomly. How we use attention leads to different realities and personalities. Attention is like psychic energy. Without it, no mental work can be done. We shape ourselves by how we deploy this energy. Concentration controls what we remember, think, feel, and decide. The self refers to the I that controls attention, but the self is also part of our consciousness. The self includes all our memories, actions, desires, pleasures, and pains. It represents our hierarchy of goals. We are usually only aware of a small part of the self at any moment. Though we often associate the self with our body, it represents all of consciousness. There is circular causality between attention and the self. Attention shapes the self, and the self shapes engagement. An example is Sam, who developed an interest in marine biology after accidentally seeing coral reefs while on vacation. His experience shaped his self and goals, and his new plans then directed his attention. To improve our experience, we must maneuver attention, goals, intentions, and the self. Outside events only matter if we connect them to ourselves. The elements needed to control consciousness are attention, experience, goals, intentions, and the self. But so far, the picture of how they interact is static. Psychic entropy refers to a disorder in our consciousness that disrupts our goals and intentions. It can take many forms, like anxiety, fear, or distraction. This disorder diverts our attention and mental energy, weakening our sense of self and ability to focus. Two examples are given to illustrate psychic entropy. Julio worries about driving to work with a flat tire, disrupting his concentration and mood. Though a temporary issue, it shows how disruptive information that threatens our goals can be. Jim suffers from his parents' divorce and battles for his loyalty. Feeling alone and caught between them, he attempts suicide. His sense of self was too bound to his parents, so their split caused a deep internal rift in him as well. In both cases, a stronger, more independent sense of self could have prevented the disruption. Our reaction to information depends on how it impacts our goals and self-view. The opposite of psychic entropy is flow or optimal experience. When the information we receive aligns with and supports our goals, our mental energy flows freely. We feel encouraged and strengthened, freeing more attention and energy. Rico, a factory worker, achieves a flow state by constantly trying to beat his own record at a repetitive task. He approaches it with an athlete's dedication and mindset. The positive feedback from achieving his goals sustains his concentration and motivation. In summary, the information we take in is evaluated based on how it impacts our sense of self and goals. The disorder results when it threatens us, and flow results when it encourages us. Our reactions depend on the strength and independence of our self-view. There are two main strategies to improve one's quality of life: change external conditions to match one's goals and desires. For example, one can buy security by installing alarms, moving to a safer neighborhood, hiring bodyguards, etc. However, changing external conditions alone is not effective in achieving happiness and a sense of inner peace. No matter how much one controls the external environment, old fears and anxieties may return. Adapt one's goals and desires to match the constraints of external conditions. For example, one can achieve a sense of security by accepting that risks are inevitable in life and learning to enjoy uncertainty. This interchange in one's consciousness and expectations is necessary for a lasting contentment. Neither strategy alone is sufficient. A combination of the two is required. Both adapt the external world to one's needs and adjust one's desires to the reality of the external world. King Midas's story illustrates the futility of focusing only on controlling external conditions for happiness. He thought immense wealth would make him happy but soon learned that it did not satisfy him and, in fact, interfered with basic joys like eating and drinking. In summary, one must work on both improving external conditions and adapting inner expectations for optimal quality of life. A balance of the two strategies is needed. Ultimately, control and harmony of consciousness is the most critical factor in happiness. Material success and external rewards do not necessarily lead to happiness and peace of mind. Many wealthy and successful people are unhappy. Happiness depends on the quality of one's experiences and how one feels about oneself. Money, status, and power have become misleading symbols of happiness in our culture. We wrongly assume that acquiring these external symbols will make us happy, even though evidence shows this is not the case. These symbols are distracting and do not directly determine the quality of one's life. Research shows only a mild correlation between wealth and happiness. Wealthy people report being slightly happier than average, but even they acknowledge that money itself does not guarantee happiness. Other factors like life satisfaction are more important. Pleasure and enjoyment are two different kinds of experiences that positively impact well-being. Pleasure involves meeting needs and expectations and reducing imbalances. It is fleeting and passive. Enjoyment, on the other hand, involves active engagement, growth, challenge, and accomplishment. It leads to increased complexity and development of the self. Enjoyment requires investing psychic energy and attention, while pleasure does not. Fun involves learning and expanding one's limits. We tend to lose the connection between happiness and growth as we age, but some continue to seek new challenges and experiences. The example of the antique store owner demonstrates that some value the enjoyment and challenge of an experience over external rewards. The owner refused to make a deal that he would not find enjoyable and that lacked the clash of wits involved in bargaining. The pleasure of money was not enough without the enjoyment of the interaction. In summary, while pleasure and external rewards have a role in well-being, a meaningful and happy life involves enjoyment, growth, and investment in experiences that develop the self. Both pleasure and fun are essential for happiness and life satisfaction. Money and status alone do not suffice. The passage describes 8 elements that are commonly found in enjoyable activities and optimal experiences. Completable challenges. Enjoyable activities often involve tasks that we have a chance of completing. Concentration. We must be able to focus our attention on what we're doing. Clear goals. The activity needs to have obvious objectives and directions. Feedback. We need to be able to see how we're progressing in the training. Loss of self-consciousness. We become immersed in the training and lose awareness of everyday worries. Sense of control. We feel a sense of control over our actions in an enjoyable activity. Time transformation. Our definition of time is altered, either speeding up or slowing down. Autotelic experience. The experience is rewarding for its own sake. The passage gives several examples of enjoyable activities, like reading, socializing, playing games, doing art or sports, and even routine tasks like mowing the lawn. The key is that the activities provide challenges that match our skills, clear goals, and opportunities for focus and progress. Competitive activities can also provide enjoyment, but only when beating an opponent is a means to improve our skills, not an end in itself. In summary, the elements of optimal experience are pretty consistent across cultures, ages, and activities. By understanding what makes experiences enjoyable, we can gain more control over our consciousness and turn routine moments into opportunities for growth and meaning. Here's a summary. The passage describes a game invented by Professor Mihaly to provide mental stimulation during dull lectures. The game involves tapping fingers in a predetermined sequence that takes about 12 minutes to complete. By keeping track of where he is in the series, Mihaly can measure the length of his trains of thought or problem-solving processes. The passage argues that the level of enjoyment of an activity depends on achieving an optimal balance of challenges and skills. If challenges exceed skills, the result is anxiety. If skills exceed challenges, the result is boredom. Enjoyment occurs when challenges and skills are balanced in a way that allows a person to be fully absorbed in the activity. When people are so absorbed in an activity that their attention is wholly focused on it, they may lose their sense of self-consciousness and feel spontaneous joy. This is referred to as flow. Although flow activities often require effort and discipline, the experience of the flow itself feels almost effortless. Two critical conditions for achieving flow are clear goals and immediate feedback. The plans provide direction and purpose, while the feedback allows people to adjust their performance to keep meeting the goals. Although some flow activities may take a long time to achieve their ultimate goals, they provide feedback along the way to sustain the experience of flow. The key ideas are: optimal enjoyment and flow require balancing challenges and skills. Absorption in activity and loss of self-consciousness characterize the flow state. Clear goals and immediate feedback enable the experience of flow. Flow activities provide feedback along the way, even if ultimate goals take a long time to achieve. Sailors experience great excitement upon spotting land after days at sea without seeing anything. They feel a mix of satisfaction, astonishment, and pride at navigating successfully to an island. Goals and feedback are not always clear in creative activities like composing music or painting. People must develop an internal sense of what they want to achieve and whether they have earned it. They may invent rules and goals on the spot. What constitutes feedback depends on the individual and activity. Surgeons value concrete feedback like a successful procedure, while psychiatrists value more subtle feedback like a patient's change in demeanor. Any feedback can be enjoyable if it's tied to a goal one values. We are particularly sensitive to certain types of feedback based on our temperaments and talents. Musicians value auditory feedback, empathetic people value emotional feedback, competitive people love winning, etc. Blind nuns interviewed described clear feedback as especially important for their enjoyment of activities like reading Braille, praying, and knitting. Without sight, feedback is crucial to knowing one's goals are being achieved. The flow requires focused concentration on the task at hand, blocking out irrelevant and distracting thoughts. This focus imposes order on one's consciousness and improves the quality of experience. In flow, one can only remember the recent past and think shortly ahead. Only immediately relevant information can enter awareness. Examples show how athletes and climbers in flow lose awareness of problems or life issues outside the activity. The flow activity becomes all that matters during that time. Flow activities provide a sense of control over one's world that helps one forget life's problems. This sense of control is paradoxical because, in flow activities, the possibility rather than the actuality of control seems to matter. Although flow activities may involve objective dangers, people who engage in them are able to develop the skills to minimize risks and experience a sense of control. The key is giving up the safety of everyday routines. Games of chance seem to contradict the idea that flow depends on a sense of control. However, people who enjoy gambling often believe that skill and control, not chance, determines outcomes. This illusory sense of control is part of the enjoyment. The sense of order and control in flow can become addictive, causing one to neglect other aspects of life. When an activity must be pursued at the cost of everything else, ultimate control over one's consciousness is lost. In summary, flow requires giving up control in everyday life to experience control in an enjoyable activity. But this experience must be balanced to avoid the loss of control that comes with addiction. The paradox of control in flow is that by giving up control, one gains more control, but by becoming dependent on that feeling of control, one loses it. In flow experiences, people lose their sense of self-consciousness as their attention is completely absorbed in the activity. This does not mean they lose awareness or control. Rather, they lose understanding of themselves and their ego. Their psychic energy is focused on the activity. Losing self-consciousness leads to feelings of transcendence of self and unity with the environment. People report feeling merged with the activity and experiencing a sense of harmony and power. These experiences are authentic and concrete, not mysterious or mystical. They happen when people invest their psychic energy into an interaction with something outside themselves. This creates a new, temporary system that incorporates the person's self, which then expands and becomes more complex. These kinds of self-transcendent flow experiences strengthen a person's self-concept over time. Although self-consciousness is lost in the moment, afterward, people reflect on the new skills and achievements they have gained, enriching their sense of self. People often report a transformation of time in flow experiences, where time seems to slow down or speed up according to the rhythms of the activity rather than the objective passage of time. Hours can go by in minutes, or minutes can stretch out. This contributes to the loss of self-consciousness by narrowing a person's attention to the present moment. In summary, flow experiences lead to a transcendence of self where one feels part of a more extensive system through focused interaction and investment of psychic energy. Although self-consciousness is lost during flow, these experiences ultimately strengthen one's self-concept by providing opportunities for growth and complexity. The transformation of time contributes to the loss of self-consciousness in flow by focusing a person's awareness entirely on the present moment. Time seems to pass quickly when we're engaged in an enjoyable activity, but it can also seem to slow down at times during intense concentration or challenging moments. During flow states, our sense of time usually does not match clock time. Flow activities are autotelic, meaning they are rewarding in themselves. We do them for their own sake, not for some future benefit. Initially, we may start an activity for external reasons, but it becomes intrinsically rewarding over time. Some things we are forced to do can become enjoyable and autotelic. Flow lifts life to a different level. It replaces feelings of boredom, anxiety, and helplessness with involvement, enjoyment, and a sense of control. Flow leads to an intrinsically rewarding present moment rather than focusing on some future goal. However, flow states can be addictive and misused. Any power or energy source can be used for good or bad. The goals and applications determine whether the outcomes are positive or negative. Violence, cruelty, and crime can provide flow for some. In summary, flow refers to an optimal experience where we are fully immersed in an activity, leading to intrinsic enjoyment and rewards. But flow can also have a dark side if misapplied or misused. The key is directing flow experiences toward positive ends that contribute value to life. Flow activities are designed to facilitate an optimal experience. They have rules, goals, and feedback and allow for control and concentration. Examples of flow activities include making music, rock climbing, dancing, sailing, chess, etc. Roger Calois divides games and plays into 4 categories based on the experiences they provide. Agon, competition, as in sports and athletic events. They allow one to push their skills to meet challenges. Aleia, chance, as in gambling and games of luck. They give the illusion of controlling the unpredictable future. Elinx, vertigo, as in activities that alter one's state of consciousness by distorting perception. Examples are riding roller coasters or skydiving. Mimicry, alternative realities, as in dance, theater, and art. They make us feel like more than we are through fantasy and pretending. All flow activities provide a sense of discovery and transport one into a new reality. They push for higher performance and new states of consciousness, leading to growth and complexity. The key points are: flow activities facilitate flow by their design. They provide different avenues for going beyond ordinary experience through competition, chance, vertigo, and alternate realities. They lead to a sense of discovery, growth, and increased complexity. The diagram shows a theory of flow using the example of learning to play tennis. At first, the challenges match the low skill level, leading to flow, A1. As skills improve, the player can get bored, A2, or anxious, A3. To return to flow, they must increase challenges, to A4, or skills. Flow activities lead to growth because people continually seek to stretch skills and find new challenges to match them. However, flow is subjective and depends on a person's perception of challenges and skills, not objective measures. People can find flow in unexpected activities. Across cultures and history, flow activities like art, music, dance, games, and ritual have been necessary for enjoyment and meaning. Modern secular flow activities focus on enjoyment but lack the meaning of religious rituals and games. However, they still reflect and shape culture. The pursuit of happiness and flow has been an aim of governments and cultures, even repressive ones, because they need to offer people some hope and meaning. Social scientists today avoid judging cultures as better or worse due to cultural relativism. However, flow and the quality of experience can be one measure of a culture. The key ideas are that flow arises from a balance of perceived challenges and skills, leads to growth, and has been an essential source of meaning and enjoyment across cultures. Though cultural relativism discourages judgments of better or worse, the flow and quality of experience within a culture can reflect its character. According to cultural relativism, we cannot judge other cultures by our own moral standards. Each culture has its own values and beliefs. However, the author argues that we can evaluate cultures based on the degree to which they enable their members to achieve optimal experience and happiness. Cultures that reduce unnecessary suffering and allow more people to develop their skills and achieve their goals can be considered better. The author gives several examples of cultures that seem to result in more psychic entropy and less happiness, like the Dabuans, who lived in constant fear of sorcery, the Ik, who institutionalized selfishness, and the Yanomamo, who worshipped violence. These cultures did not choose to be this way but evolved by chance into patterns that made happiness difficult. In contrast, the author highlights cultures like the Ituri Forest Pygmies and Canadian Shuswap Indians that were able to build flow and meaningful challenges into their lifestyles. They changed locations every few decades to find new challenges and give life meaning. The Great Shrine at Ise in Japan is rebuilt every 20 years for similar reasons. Cultures evolve to help us deal with the challenges of life by prescribing norms, rules, and beliefs. They limit possibilities but allow for focused, effortless action within those boundaries, like games. When a culture is able to frequently produce flow for its members, it becomes like a great game. Some classical civilizations may have achieved this. A culture that produces flow is not necessarily morally good. Cultures like Sparta or the Tartars made flow through violence and cruelty. But in general, cultures that reduce suffering and help more people achieve their goals and optimal experience can be considered better. The key ideas are that cultures can be evaluated based on the well-being and happiness of their members and that cultures which are able to cultivate frequent flow experiences for more of their population may be better able to achieve this. Examples of cultures that were more or less successful at enabling flow and happiness illustrate this perspective. Flow activities can provide enjoyment and meaning in people's lives. However, flow alone does not guarantee virtue or morality. Flow activities that benefit one group can come at the expense of others. It is difficult to measure how much optimal experience different cultures provide. Some surveys suggest citizens of wealthier, more educated, and stable nations report higher happiness. However, other surveys show significant discrepancies. In general, opportunity and resources do not directly translate into flow and enjoyment. Although Americans have abundant leisure time and opportunities for enjoyment, they do not often experience flow. Flow occurs more frequently during work than leisure activities like watching TV. Simply having options and choices is not enough. People need the skills and ability to control their consciousness to achieve flow. Some individuals may be constitutionally incapable of experiencing flow, such as those with attentional disorders like schizophrenia. Excessive self-consciousness and self-centeredness can also prevent flow by limiting a person's ability to control their attention and become interested in intrinsic goals. Harsh environmental conditions can obstruct flow, though they do not eliminate it entirely. Social conditions, like oppressive rules, lack of freedom, and warfare can also prevent flow. In contrast, states that promote autonomy, authentic communication, and opportunities for the use and display of skills facilitate flow. An autotelic personality refers to individuals who can quickly become interested in an activity for its own sake. They have a strong inner locus of control and believe their actions can influence the outcome of events. Autotelic people learn to make the most of their situation and turn monotonous tasks into opportunities for flow. Some societies were able to build enjoyment into their lives by developing activities like singing, dancing, joking, arts and crafts, and mythology. These societies likely survived, while others that couldn't find meaning or enjoyment may have died out. Social conditions that inhibit flow and make life meaningless, like oppression, can lead to a lack of interest in survival. Many cultures may have disappeared because they could no longer provide enjoyable experiences. Two terms that describe obstacles to flow are anomie, lack of social norms, which leads to anxiety and erratic behavior. It can arise from economic collapse, cultural destruction, or rapid prosperity that makes old values irrelevant. Alienation, being forced to act in ways that go against your goals, like doing repetitive assembly line work or waiting in long lines. Anomie scatters attention. Alienation rigidly focuses it. Some people may have a genetic advantage in controlling their consciousness and experiencing flow. The research found people who report more flow need fewer external cues to accomplish a mental task and have decreased cortical activation when concentrating, suggesting they can screen out stimulation and focus better. However, learning and environment may also play a role. Family environment influences the autotelic personality. An autotelic family context that provides clarity, centering, choice, commitment, and challenge helps children develop the ability to experience flow. It conserves their psychic energy and allows more enjoyment. Children with this context no expectations, can focus on the present, feel in control, trust others, and are exposed to new challenges. Those who grow up in orderly households with clear rules and expectations are better able to develop intrinsic interests and engage in flow activities. They have more freedom to pursue self-expanding activities without constant demands for their attention. In chaotic households, children expend a lot of energy negotiating relationships and protecting themselves. They have little power left to pursue enjoyment and intrinsic rewards. They are more likely to seek simple pleasure. Differences in well-being between teenagers from orderly versus chaotic families are most pronounced when teens are at home or alone. The differences disappear when with friends. Early experiences with parents likely predispose children to find enjoyment easily or with difficulty. Abused or threatened children probably worry more about self-preservation and seek less complexity and fun. Autotelic personalities, which can make any situation enjoyable, share some key traits. They focus closely on details in their environment and find opportunities for action and goals to pursue, no matter how limited their options. They continually up the challenge and complexity. They are intrinsically motivated and not self-seeking. They do their best in any circumstance. This leaves their psychic energy free to observe and analyze their surroundings objectively. They can discover new opportunities for action. In adverse situations, they reassert control by finding new directions to invest their mental energy, directions outside external forces. Even when objectively confined, they can subjectively feel free. Examples include prisoners who created mental challenges and games to stay sane. Explorers like Admiral Byrd spent months alone in isolation. Survivors who found purpose and meaning even in dire circumstances. A non-self-conscious individualism, a strongly directed yet non-self-seeking purpose, is key. Narcissistic people panic in adversity because their attention turns inward, preventing them from taking necessary action. Here's a summary: the mind and body are deeply connected, and controlling the body is crucial in shaping one's experiences and achieving a meaningful life. By cultivating one's senses and skills, even simple physical acts can become complex and enjoyable flow activities. For example, walking, an otherwise mundane act, can become an art form by setting goals, measuring progress, focusing attention, developing skills, and continually raising the stakes. In general, flow activities involve mastering challenges through concentration and skill development. Sports and physical feats that push the limits of human achievement are prime examples. The Olympic motto "higher, faster, stronger" reflects the potential for flow in physical accomplishments that transcend previous boundaries. While elite athletes may achieve the highest levels of performance, anyone can work to better themselves physically and experience the joy of surpassing their own limits. The goal of walking may be to develop an efficient and enjoyable way of moving. Measuring progress could include speed, distance covered, sights seen, and ideas encountered. The challenges of walking provide focus and concentration. Walking on flat ground is more accessible than on mountain trails, which requires choosing each step carefully. City walking also provides challenges through observing people and places. Unless one sets goals and develops skills, walking is unenjoyable drudgery. Many sports and exercise activities may not be enjoyable if done out of duty or for appearance. Enjoyment depends on one's mindset, not the action itself. A study found people were happier engaging in leisure activities requiring few material resources but high mental involvement versus expensive, resource-intensive activities. Dance and other rhythmic movements can produce flow. Dancing is a universal activity that can be simple or complex. Dancers describe feeling a physical high, expressing themselves, and floating. Some sacrifice greatly for the joy of dance. Non-professionals can also enjoy the dance. Other expressive physical activities include acting, miming, and charades. Sex is a primal source of enjoyment for humans. However, sex is not always enjoyable and depends on one's mindset and goals. The same act could produce a range of responses from painful to ecstatic. While sexual stimulation itself tends to be pleasurable, enjoyment of sex requires the right conditions and mindset. Many human activities are motivated by the drive for sex and relationships. In summary, walking, physical activities, dance, and sex can be meaningful sources of flow and enjoyment when one cultivates the right mindset and skills. Challenges, goals, and control of the experience determine the quality of the fun, not the activity alone. After initial experiences, few new physical challenges arise in sex. Without effort, sex becomes boring or addictive over time. However, there are ways to make sex enjoyable and complex. Eroticism focuses on developing physical skills and techniques, like those described in the Kama Sutra. Most cultures have systems of erotic training, often tied to religion. Romance provides psychological challenges, like wooing a partner. Romance originated in medieval Europe among the affluent, though other cultures developed sophisticated courtesans. Romance makes sex more complex and enjoyable. Genuine care for one's partner presents further challenges to understanding them and helping them grow. This can provide lifelong flow experiences. Though humans may not be naturally monogamous, effort and attention can sustain an enjoyable long-term relationship. Like any activity, relationships require new challenges and increasing complexity to remain enjoyable. Partners must invest attention in each other to discover new potentialities and share dreams, adventures, and life goals. Eastern practices like yoga provide advanced techniques for controlling the body and mind. Hatha yoga uses physical and mental disciplines to unite the individual with the divine. The 8 stages progress from moral restraint to physical preparation, to control of the senses and breathing, to mastery of attention and thought. Yoga aims for a balance of spirituality and materiality. The article discusses how yoga and flow activities are similar in that they both try to achieve an enjoyable, self-forgetful experience through concentration and disciplining the body and mind. Some argue that yoga aims to abolish the self while flow aims to fortify it, but the author argues this difference is superficial. For most of the yoga process, one is building skills to control consciousness, just like in flow activities. Samadhi, the final stage of yoga, may just be a justification for this process, just like a mountain peak justifies the climb. The martial arts, also influenced by Eastern philosophies, cultivate flow through disciplining the body and mind. The author then discusses how visual skills in the arts can lead to enjoyable flow experiences. Quotes from artists describe having intense, almost physical reactions to great works of art that give them a sudden sense of connection and understanding. Even mundane sights can lead to flow for those with a trained eye. The author acknowledges it takes effort to develop these visual skills but says seeing is reasonably accessible as a route to flow, though some disagree that many lack visual sensitivity. Though yoga teaches non-seeing and visual arts teach seeing, the author says this is not really a contradiction if you focus on the experience rather than the behavior. The same person could practice yoga and visual arts and achieve flow through both by controlling their consciousness. Music is another way to achieve flow by engaging the senses. Music is used in all cultures to evoke moods and bring people together. Listening to music can lead to flow through anticipating what comes next in a piece of music. Creating music is an even more direct route to flow. The author describes observing jazz musicians who achieved flow and highly focused attention through the spontaneous creation of music together. In summary, the article discusses how flow can emerge through disciplining and engaging the senses, mainly through yoga, the visual arts, music, and other activities that train the body and mind. Though the means of achieving flow may differ, the end experience of focused attention, enjoyment, and an altered sense of time can be pretty similar across these activities. Music serves many important functions in human society and life. It is used for religious, patriotic, and romantic occasions. It helps soldiers march and boosts morale. For the pygmies of Central Africa, music was used to wake up the benevolent forest and bring back good times. Most of the music today serves a similar purpose of providing reassurance and confidence. Music reduces disorder in the mind by organizing auditory information. It wards off boredom and anxiety and can induce flow experiences. However, the mere availability and access to music do not necessarily make life richer. One has to actively listen to music with attention and intention to enjoy and experience it fully. Some strategies to achieve flow through music include setting aside time specifically for listening, choosing selections carefully, formulating goals for the listening sessions, starting by responding to the sensory elements of the music, then progressing to the analogic mode of associating the music with images and feelings, and finally listening in an analytic manner by focusing on the underlying structure and complexity of the music. Making music oneself offers even greater rewards and opportunities for achieving flow. Learning to create harmony through music leads to developing theme in the social order and civilization itself. Plato believed music education should come before anything else. Unfortunately, music education is often neglected in schools today. Even when taught, too much emphasis is placed on performance outcomes rather than the experience itself. Pushing children to excel musically through parental pressure can negatively impact their well-being and enjoyment of music. In summary, music serves to reduce disorder, provide reassurance, elicit flow experiences, and support social harmony when used and appreciated properly with mindful attention and intention. Creating music oneself offers a particularly potent pathway to individual and collective flourishing. The author discusses how developing an appreciation for taste and food can lead to flow experiences. As a teenager, the pianist Hollander suffered from psychologically induced paralysis of his hands that prevented him from playing for years. Now recovered, he helps other young musicians develop a joy of music. Though best learned young, playing an instrument or singing in a choir can provide exhilarating experiences at any age. Computers also make composition and orchestration more accessible. Like music, food is a potential source of flow. Studies show people report feeling most happy and relaxed at mealtimes. Though necessary for survival, eating has been cultivated into an art form and source of enjoyment in all cultures. As with any skill, developing a cultivated palate requires investment to make finer distinctions and learn rules for combining ingredients. Much culinary creativity was driven by leaders seeking new tastes, but ordinary people also developed complex cuisines, for example, peasant women learning a different soup for each day. To experience flow in tasting, one must pay close attention to what one eats. Developing a discriminating palate and learning about a particular cuisine's history and characteristics can provide opportunities for flow. However, one must approach eating and cooking with an attitude of adventure and curiosity, not just to impress others or showcase expertise. There is also a danger of addiction to culinary pleasures, as with any bodily skill. True enjoyment comes through freely chosen discipline to keep desires within reason. Using the body's senses is a way to experience flow that is open and affordable to all. Though one can only achieve high levels of skill in a few physical domains due to demands on psychic energy, becoming a dilettante in the senses can significantly enrich life. Attending to the joys of the reasons helps us realize the body's potential for flow and connects us to each other and the world around us. Flow experiences can be generated by mental activities in addition to physical ones. Mental flow activities provide intellectual challenges that trigger a sense of enjoyment. Reading, solving puzzles, and interpreting art or music scores are examples of mental flow activities that people find enjoyable and engaging. These activities provide opportunities for developing skills and facing challenges that match a person's abilities. Although flow experiences involve both physical and mental components, some activities like reading, chess, and philosophy primarily order the mind. These symbolic activities depend on languages, mathematics, or other abstract systems to achieve an ordered mental state. To enjoy these mental activities, the same conditions that make physical activities enjoyable must be met. There must be opportunities to develop skills, clear rules and goals, and consistent feedback. Achieving an ordered mental state is challenging because the default state of the mind is chaotic. Without outside stimulation or training, people struggle to focus their attention for long. Habits and skills that give individuals control over their mental processes, such as daydreaming, help avoid chaos in the mind. Daydreaming, for example, helps create emotional order and allows people to rehearse and explore options for various situations. However, trance and other strategies for ordering one's thoughts must be learned and developed. Memory is fundamental to developing order in the mind and enjoying mental flow activities. Without the ability to remember, other skills like logic, poetry, and science would not be possible. Memory allows the transmission of knowledge between individuals and generations. It is the basis for all mental operations. Memory is fundamental to human consciousness and identity. Without memory, we lose our sense of coherence and continuity over time. Memory allows us to build on past experiences and construct mental patterns that create order in our minds. The oldest forms of organizing information involved remembering one's ancestral lineage. Recalling one's line established one's identity and place in the social order. Pre-literate cultures also relied heavily on memory to preserve knowledge about survival, culture, laws, geography, technology, etc. Much of this knowledge was encoded in sayings, verses, songs, and riddles that were easy to memorize. Memory was highly prized in the past and seen as a sign of intelligence. Although memorization is now seen as trivial or useless, a cultivated memory provides many benefits. Someone with a stocked memory can entertain themselves, find meaning, and share knowledge with others. They have an enriched internal life that is independent of external stimulation. To improve your memory, focus on subjects that genuinely interest you. Decide what information is most worth remembering rather than trying to memorize facts indiscriminately. The key is to take ownership and control over what you choose to remember. While there is a risk of becoming boring by constantly flaunting your memory, this is less likely if you are motivated by a genuine interest in the material rather than a desire to impress others. The memory alone is not enough to provide order and structure to thought. The information we remember must be organized into patterns and categories. The simplest way to categorize information is by naming things and using words to represent classes of similar events, objects, or concepts. Words give us immense power to shape thought. Thesis, words, names, numbers, and abstract concepts allowed humans to develop symbolic systems to order and make sense of experiences. These systems increased the mind's capacity for thought and enabled advanced reasoning. God named the world immediately after creating it, showing the importance of words in structuring experience. References from John and Heraclitus also suggest this. Words enabled abstract thinking, increased mental capacity, and allowed the ordering of information. Without them, the mind would be in chaos. Numbers and concepts are built on words, allowing systematic rules for combining information, for example, geometry, mathematics. These were used to model the universe, predict seasons, map the earth, etc. Philosophy and science arose from the pleasure of thinking, not just practical necessity. While material conditions influenced which ideas were adopted, curiosity drove their creation. Democritus and other thinkers were motivated by thinking itself, not rewards. Access to knowledge, for example, in schools and books, provides the tools for flowing thought. Learning a symbolic system establishes an internal world in the mind that can be a source of enjoyment and order. Examples are Icelandic sagas, which helped endure harsh winters. Symbolic systems can help survive extreme conditions like concentration camps when the outside world offers no order or meaning. They provide a portable set of rules for the mind. Those without internalized symbolic systems are more easily manipulated and exploited. They have less ability to order their own experiences. In sum, the development of symbolic systems of knowledge enabled advanced cognition, creativity, adaptation, and resistance to disorder. They arise from an innate drive to think, not just practical needs. Access to bodies of knowledge and learning to use them establishes a capacity for flowing, self-controlled thought. Writing, conversation, and poetry are ways to master the language and restore order to one's mind. Crossword puzzles and wordplay are accessible ways for people to start enjoying using words and language. Making up one's own crosswords or engaging in wordplay with children can lead to more profound enjoyment and flow. The conversation has social functions beyond just conveying information. It helps establish cultural rules, relationships, and a shared sense of reality. Reviving the art of conversation can enrich interactions and life. Poetry provides a condensed way of preserving and shaping experience. Reading or writing poetry each day helps keep one's mind in shape, even if just engaging with a single line or word. Writing poetry, even for amateurs, can be a rewarding and meaningful activity. Writing, In general, whether prose, journals, or letters, is a way to create and reflect on the experience. It used to be expected for people to keep journals and write long letters, but these habits have declined with technology. However, writing still has intrinsic value for ordering one's thoughts, understanding experiences, and achieving flow. For some writers, writing may be a way to find flow and order amid inner chaos or depression. While writing can be therapeutic, it needs to be balanced with engaging in a range of other life experiences. In summary, mastering language through conversation, poetry, writing, and other verbal play is a way for people to restore order to their consciousness, shape their experiences, build relationships, and achieve flow. Developing these skills leads to a more prosperous and more autonomous inner life. History, science, and other knowledge domains are often viewed as dreary subjects that must be endured for the sake of education. However, when an individual pursues areas of knowledge that are personally compelling and meaningful, the process of learning can become highly enjoyable and rewarding. Amateur historians, for example, can find great satisfaction in researching and recording the history of their local community, ethnic group, or family. They are freed from the tyranny of the present and able to revisit and creatively shape their understanding of the past. Similarly, many scientists are deeply fascinated by the puzzles and problems of their field, whether they are pursuing normal science by refining existing theories or revolutionary science by forging new paradigms. The challenge and enjoyment of problem-solving fuel their work. For example, the physicist P.A.M. Dirac described developing quantum theory as an interesting game, while the astrophysicist Subramanian Chandrasekhar was so devoted to the work that he persevered in teaching a seminar with only 2 students, driving hours each week to do so. In sum, while knowledge domains have an objective and culturally defined structure, the subjective experience of learning and working in these areas depends significantly upon individual interest and enjoyment. Without letting it control the mind, the pleasure of discovery and understanding can be a tool of infinite subtlety and rich rewards. A professor once taught 2 promising students who went on to win Nobel Prizes in physics. Though the professor himself never won, he was eventually also awarded the Nobel Prize. Breakthroughs often happen through dedicated people exploring ideas, not just in substantial research institutions. Significant discoveries are often made by people working alone or in small groups, driven by curiosity and passion for the work, not money or fame. Many famous scientists like Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, Lavoisier, Galvani, Mendel, and Einstein made considerable contributions in their spare time as a hobby. Though amateurs today may not make contributions requiring billion-dollar equipment, the spirit of scientific inquiry is open to everyone. Amateur scientists can explore many areas, from health to animal breeding to astronomy to geology. More people would pursue science as a hobby if they didn't think only professionals could do natural science. But the main reward of science is the flow of experience, not fame or success. Philosophy used to mean love of wisdom, but now professional philosophers are highly specialized. Amateur philosophers, however, are free to ponder the most profound questions about existence, ethics, beauty, and more. They can read influential philosophers from various schools of thought but should follow their own interests and not feel forced into any one approach. Specialization may be necessary to explore topics in depth, but the goal should constantly be gaining wisdom, not becoming an acclaimed scholar. In summary, the key message is that breakthroughs in the pursuit of deeper understanding can happen through amateur passion and curiosity, not just in professional or institutional settings. With freedom from the pressures of career and prestige, amateurs can gain insight and wisdom by doing what they love. Philosophy and other disciplines involve transitioning from being a passive consumer of knowledge to an active producer by recording and expressing one's insights. Writing down one's ideas with the aim of impressing posterity is hubristic. However, recording thoughts to make sense of one's experiences and confront questions can be rewarding. Some people devote themselves to mastering a specialty, while others prefer dabbling in various activities without becoming an expert. Originally, amateur and dilettante referred to someone who enjoyed an activity but now imply a lack of skill or commitment. This reflects a shift in values from experience to achievement and performance. Amateur scholarship can be as fulfilling as professional work but loses purpose if it's used to feed one's ego or gain an advantage rather than enjoy learning. Amateurs who claim professional expertise or advanced pseudoscience can cause harm. Learning should continue beyond formal education. Giving up wisdom means letting others direct your thinking. Ideally, education becomes intrinsically motivated, to understand life and the world, not for status or jobs. This can lead to profound joy and review. Like other animals, humans must work to survive, but how much varies. Early humans worked little, and industrial workers worked long hours in harmful conditions. Work quality also varies. It can refine us or make us bestial. Meaningful, freely chosen work is best. An old saying notes work gives nobility or turns us into animals. Finding flow in work and relationships helps happiness. Work provides opportunities for flow, learning, and a sense of control or helplessness. According to the Bible, work is a curse and is meant to be avoided. However, work does not have to be unpleasant. There is evidence that work can be enjoyable and fulfilling. Some cultures have evolved in a way that integrates work and leisure harmoniously. As an example, the author describes life in alpine villages in Europe that were largely untouched by industrialization. In these villages, people do not strongly distinguish between work and leisure. They work long hours doing difficult chores but find the work enjoyable and meaningful. The author interviews Serafina, a 76-year-old woman in one of these villages. Serafina works from dawn to dusk doing chores like milking cows, cooking, cleaning, tending to crops, and carding wool. However, Serafina says she enjoys all these activities immensely. If she had unlimited time and money, she would continue doing the same work. She is content and fulfilled. Most of the older generation in Serafina's village shares her view of work as a source of enjoyment and meaning. However, the younger generations are less content doing agricultural work and would prefer more leisure time. This generational shift reflects the erosion of the traditional way of life. The author acknowledges that not all pre-industrial societies were idyllic. Many were harsh and brutal. However, Serafina's village shows that it is possible to develop a lifestyle that balances work and leisure in a fulfilling way. The author provides another example of someone who finds meaning and fulfillment in difficult industrial work. Joe Kramer is a 62-year-old welder in a factory. Despite the harsh conditions, Joe enjoys his work as a welder and has declined opportunities for promotion. He is content doing demanding manual labor. In summary, while the Bible and many cultures view work as an unpleasant curse, work does not have to be unfulfilling. Some cultures and individuals are able to find meaning and enjoyment in work, even tricky physical work. A balanced integration of work and leisure is possible. Joe is an extremely skilled and efficient worker in a factory who enjoys challenging work. His co-workers and manager praise him highly for his abilities. Joe learned complex mechanical and technical skills through a process of empathic identification, imagining how something works if it is broken, then fixing it. He has always been fascinated by how things work. Outside of work, Joe created an intricate rock garden and installed a sprinkler system that produces rainbows. He is able to find flow experiences and enjoyment even in a rather dull environment. The author discusses the concept of an autotelic personality, someone able to create flow experiences and meaning even in a barren environment. Joe is given as an example of someone with an autotelic personality. The author cites examples of philosophical and religious traditions that emphasized productive, skillful work as a means of achieving fulfillment and meaning, including Christianity, Marxism, and Taoism. In Taoism, the concept of yu refers to spontaneous, committed action without concern for external rewards, in other words, flow. The author discusses a parable from Chuang-Tzu describing a cook, Ding, who achieves a state of yu while butchering an ox. There are differing interpretations of how Ding achieves yu. The author argues that Ding achieves it through mastery of challenges and skills, not through the transcendence of conscious effort. With practice, Ding's skills become so automatic that his performance seems effortless and spiritual. The author argues that in the experience of flow or yu, Western and Eastern concepts meet. In both cultures, ecstasy arises from confronting challenges, developing skills, and achieving a sense of automatic mastery. In summary, the central themes are finding meaning, fulfillment, and flow in work through mastery of skills and challenges. Developing an autotelic personality, the ability to create flow and meaning even in a barren environment. The similarities between the Western concept of flow and the Eastern idea of yu are that both arise from a mastery of skills and challenges. Work that is challenging has clear goals, provides immediate feedback, and requires skill and concentration can lead to an enjoyable flow experience. Examples of jobs that can facilitate flow include hunting, fishing, farming, and craft work. In these kinds of work, people have the flexibility and autonomy to set their own goals and challenges. The Industrial Revolution disrupted these kinds of autonomous work and replaced them with rigid, boring jobs in factories. But work conditions can change dramatically based on technology, laws, and other factors. Any job today has the potential to be made more enjoyable and conducive to flow. While good external conditions are necessary for flow at work, they are not sufficient. A person's subjective experience of their work, how they perceive the challenges and match them to their skills, is also crucial. Even with a potentially enjoyable, challenging job, A person may not experience flow if they see it as tedious or overly complicated. The example of surgeons illustrates this. Some surgeons find their work highly engaging and flow-inducing, but others can see the same work as boring, tedious, and repetitive. A surgeon's experience depends on whether they are able to find the right level of challenge that matches their skills. Specializing in routine, repetitive surgeries or constantly needing extreme challenges can make flow less likely. In summary, creating the conditions for flow at work requires both designing jobs that optimize challenges, goals, feedback, and skill utilization, as well as individuals cultivating the ability to perceive these optimal conditions and tune their challenges and skills for maximum engagement. Both external factors and a person's subjective experience are necessary for enjoying and finding meaning in one's job. Surgeons often experience flow in their work because surgery has many characteristics of flow activities: clear goals, immediate feedback, challenges that match skills, and focused attention. However, some surgeons still don't enjoy their work due to a lack of autotelic personality or unattainable expectations. In general, people report contradictory views about work. On the one hand, they say some of their most positive experiences were at work. On the other hand, they say they would instead not be working, and their motivation at work is low. Similarly, while enjoying leisure, their moods are often lacking, yet they wish for more peace. A study using the experience sampling method found that people report flow experiences more often at work than at leisure. About 33% of responses were in the flow, and people in flow more often felt intense, active, creative, concentrated, and motivated. Surprisingly, people reported flow at work 54% of the time but only 18% of the time in leisure. At work, people felt above average challenges and skills, but in peace, they felt below average challenges and abilities, leading to apathy. In summary, there is a paradox that people report more positive experiences and flow at work, yet they wish to avoid work in favor of leisure, where they feel apathetic. Both work and relaxation could be improved by redesigning activities to increase flow and developing autotelic personalities. The key points are: surgery exemplifies a flow activity, but individual factors still determine whether a surgeon will enjoy the work. People report contradictory views of work, positive experiences yet a desire to avoid it. A study found people report more flow at work than in leisure, yet prefer peace. Improving work and leisure activities and developing autotelic personalities could help resolve this paradox. When working, 16% of people reported feeling apathetic. During leisure time, 52% reported feeling apathetic. Managers and supervisors reported feeling in flow more often at work, 64%, compared to clerical workers, 51%, and blue-collar workers, 47%. Blue-collar workers reported more flow during leisure, 20%, compared to clerical workers, 16%, and managers, 15%. However, blue-collar workers reported being in flow more than twice as often at work, 47%, compared to leisure, 20%. People felt more positive emotions when in flow compared to when not in flow, regardless of whether they were working or engaging in leisure activities. The one exception was that people wished they were doing something else more often when working than engaging in leisure. The apathy and dissatisfaction many people feel are not due to exhaustion. Instead, it stems from how people perceive their goals for their work. When people think they are investing effort into labor against their will, their psychic energy feels wasted. 3 main reasons for job dissatisfaction are lack of variety and challenge, conflicts with others at work, and burnout from too much stress and pressure. These are subjective and can be addressed by shifting one's mindset and consciousness. Free time often feels unstructured and unsatisfying. It requires effort to shape leisure time into an enjoyable experience. Hobbies, habits, personal interests, and inner discipline can make leisure time feel recreational. However, many people do not make good use of their leisure time. In summary, work and leisure can feel unfulfilling and lead to apathy due to a lack of flow and the consequent negative appraisals of those activities. Improving both work and leisure requires cultivating flow and a growth mindset. Shaping one's goals, perceptions, and consciousness regarding work and relaxation can help in this process. But many fail to effectively use their time, especially leisure time, to experience flow, instead passively consuming entertainment and media. Relationships with other people are a crucial determinant of our quality of life. We are biologically programmed to seek out human interactions and social connections. Being with others makes us feel alive and gives life meaning. Lack of social interaction leads to loneliness, depression, and health issues. However, relationships can also be a source of pain and negative experiences. Since we depend so much on how others treat us, we become vulnerable to them. Unpleasant interactions with people we care about, like bosses, family members, and romantic partners, are frequently cited as causes of unhappiness. The conflicting effects of relationships stem from the fact that people are the most changeable aspect of our environment. The same person can make us happy one moment and miserable the next. Building positive relationships and social connections is critical to improving well-being and life satisfaction. When people are treated as ends in themselves rather than as a means to an end, they become a source of joy and fulfillment. The flexibility of relationships also means that negative interactions can often be transformed into more positive ones through changes in how we define and interpret them. Our outlook and expectations strongly influence how people treat us and how we feel about those interactions. With effort and skill, we can improve the quality of our relationships. In summary, the main message is that relationships are crucial to well-being but are complex and ambiguous. Whether they make us happy or sad depends entirely on how we navigate them. We can shape our relationships in a positive direction through our choices and attitudes. Learning to do so is vital for happiness and life's meaning. One afternoon, Mark was walking home from school through the park. 3 young men from a neighboring ghetto confronted him. They threatened to shoot him if he moved. They took what little Mark had, some change and an old watch. They told him to keep walking and not look back. Mark kept walking but then turned around and caught up with the robbers. He asked them to return his watch because it was a gift from his parents and had sentimental value, even though it was cheap. The robbers were angry but took a vote. 2 of the 3 voted to give the watch back. So Mark got his eye back but no change. From an adult view, Mark risked his life over an old watch, but his actions show that social situations can be transformed by changing the rules. Mark did not play the role of a victim. He appealed to the robbers as reasonable people who might empathize with him. He turned the confrontation into a democratic decision. Of course, the robbers could have reacted violently, but the point remains that relationships are flexible. People generally dislike and feel empty when alone with nothing specific to do. Being with others is more enjoyable for most. Sunday mornings can be depressing for those who live alone and don't attend religious services because there are no external demands on their attention. Their thoughts become chaotic. Without external goals and feedback, keeping order in one's mind is complex. Teenagers alone wonder anxiously about relationships, appearance, and responsibilities. Adults worry about health, work, finances, and relationships. Television, drugs, sex, thrill-seeking, and masochism provide external stimulation, pattern the mind, and keep depression and anxiety at bay, though they do not lead to optimal experiences or a complex consciousness. The ultimate test of controlling one's quality of experience is what a person does alone with no external stimulation. It's easy to enjoy activities and friends that structure our attention, but solitude reveals whether we can achieve enjoyable self-directed experiences. Being alone with free time can lead to 2 outcomes, growth and distraction. Using the time for challenging, skill-building activities leads to change. Mindless distractions like TV serve to avoid discomfort. Learning to cope with solitude, especially in youth, is essential for developing discipline and the ability to handle adult responsibilities that require mental preparation. Teenagers who can't be alone often fill their time with distractions like friends, music, and TV rather than studying or pursuing hobbies. As life becomes more complex and information-based, focusing and working with abstract ideas becomes crucial. Those without an inner discipline struggle in competitive environments and never learn to fully enjoy life by taking on challenges. It's best to develop the ability to use solitude for growth early on, but it's never too late. By creating order out of life's inevitable chaos and entropy, one can grow and age gracefully, turning to new pursuits as old ones become impossible. Examples of people who have learned to thrive in solitude and impose their order on it include: Dorothy is a woman who lives alone on an isolated island and has imposed her structure on the space and her time to combat loneliness. Susan Butcher is a dog sled racer who lives in a remote Alaskan cabin and finds enough challenge and routine in caring for her 150 huskies to avoid loneliness. A solo sailor shared an anecdote of another sailor so desperate for interaction after weeks alone at sea that he dove into dangerous waters to retrieve a dropped glove just for an excuse to make contact. In summary, solitude need not lead to loneliness and distraction if one develops the discipline to use it for growth and challenge. A person can thrive alone by creating routines, structure, and goals. But without this ability, there is a tendency to fill empty time with mindless escapism. A man was scrubbing the deck of his boat, which was covered in a foul-smelling, sticky yellow substance, rotten eggs. His friend needed clarification as to how the eggs got there. The man explained that the refrigerator had broken down, the eggs spoiled, and there was no wind for days. Out of boredom, He decided to break the rotten eggs on the deck to have something to clean up later. However, he didn't realize how bad the smell would be. The anecdote illustrates how people cope with boredom and solitude in different ways. Some solo sailors are able to occupy their minds with the demands of sailing, but when the wind dies down, they have to find ways to challenge themselves. Is coping with rotten eggs any different than dealing through drugs, TV, etc.? In both cases, unpleasant thoughts are avoided, but the methods differ. Seeing solitude as an opportunity leads to learning new skills, while seeing it as something to prevent leads to distractions and avoidance of complexity. Family relationships can provide some of the most meaningful experiences in life. While biology predisposes us to attachments with family, culture heavily influences the strength and direction of those attachments. The type of family system, inheritance laws, marriage practices, etc., shape how family members interact and what they expect from one another. Entering any relationship requires reorienting one's attention and goals to accommodate the relationship. Marriages and children require radical and permanent changes. The connection will produce inner conflict and frustration if a person is unwilling to adjust personal goals. Entering a relationship transforms the self, the sum of one's dreams. Historically, families stayed together for external reasons, not because of love. Now relationships require constant adaptation to thrive. Investment of psychic energy in mutual goals and the connection is vital. Those unable to adapt to the changing needs find relationships entropic. Families traditionally stayed together out of necessity and external pressures, not because the members enjoyed each other's company. Now that many of these external pressures are disappearing, families are breaking up at a higher rate. However, some families do stay together because the members genuinely like each other and find meaning in the relationship. These families can better help individuals develop a strong sense of self. Whether humans are naturally monogamous is debated, but in the end, individuals must decide what kind of relationship they want. Marriage does constrain freedom in some ways, but it can also be liberating by allowing one to focus on the relationship. For a family to provide flow and be intrinsically rewarding, it must have clear goals and a balance of challenges and skills. Both long-term and short-term goals are needed. Family activities should reflect individual members' interests, and there must be open communication to provide feedback. New challenges and activities are needed to keep things interesting as relationships progress. Forcing unhappy family members to do something together will likely backfire. Balance is key. Early in a relationship, the primary challenge is getting together in the first place. But more complex challenges are needed to sustain a long-term relationship. In summary, while external pressures have traditionally held families together, internally meaningful relationships that provide flow are needed for families to thrive and develop their members' potential genuinely. Open communication, shared goals, and balancing challenges and skills are prerequisites for such relationships. Relationships and families require constant effort and new challenges to sustain flow and meaning. In the early stages of a relationship, learning about the other person and exploring new experiences together provide flow. But over time, as the relationship becomes more predictable and routines set in, it loses excitement and meaning. The solution is to continually find new challenges, new topics of conversation, and new shared interests and activities. The same is true of relationships with children. As children develop new skills and abilities, parents must provide new opportunities for challenges and growth to keep the relationship enjoyable and meaningful for both parties. During adolescence, many teenagers lack significant challenges and opportunities for development, leading to boredom, apathy, and problem behaviors. Parents can help by providing examples of complex, meaningful activities, discussing their own lives and ideals with teens, and giving teens more responsibility and autonomy. Unconditional love and acceptance from family provide a sense of security that makes growth and risk-taking possible. When children feel accepted no matter what, they can relax and freely explore the world. Clear rules and reasonable consequences are still needed to make the family system meaningful, and open communication and a common purpose help make family life an enjoyable, flow-producing activity for all members. But families require work and constant investment of energy to function well. The belief that home life will take care of itself is an illusion. Like any joint enterprise, families need effort and challenges to stay vibrant and meaningful. Friendships are more straightforward to enjoy than familial relationships because we can choose our friends based on shared interests and goals. We do not have to change ourselves to be with friends and can focus on enjoyable activities. Studies show people report the most positive moods when with friends, even more so than with spouses or family. While casual socializing with friends can be pleasant, meaningful friendships provide growth and challenges. Dependence on superficial peer interactions for validation and to avoid solitude is unhealthy. Teenagers with strong family ties are less dependent on peer acceptance and more able to develop true friendships. One teenager planned to become more popular at school by changing his appearance and personality. However, his inner self remained the same. He achieved popularity in a detached, disciplined way, turning it into an enjoyable flow activity that built his self-esteem. Intimate friendships provide the opportunity for delightful and intense experiences. They require an investment of attention, openness, vulnerability, and continual new challenges in learning about the friend. Friendships allow us to express parts of ourselves we do not often get to display in other areas of life. Expressive actions that tap into our subjective experiences and true selves are critical for well-being. Friendships are one of the few places most people feel they can fully be themselves. The quality of one's life depends primarily on one's subjective experience, not material conditions. While health, wealth, and favorable circumstances can contribute to a good life, they do not determine how enjoyable or meaningful one's life is. Many people can cultivate flow and lead fulfilling lives even when faced with adverse conditions. There are several strategies people use to cope with difficulties and chaos in a way that allows them to maintain a positive experience of life, set goals and continually challenge yourself. Having purpose and direction gives life meaning, even when facing hardships. Focusing one's psychic energy on overcoming challenges helps create order from chaos. Develop an autotelic self. Learn to transform mundane or repetitive activities into enjoyable experiences by paying close attention, setting clear goals, and balancing challenges with skills. With practice, one can apply this skill to almost any life circumstance. Find meaning and purpose. Look for ways to contribute to something greater than yourself. Having a goal or mission provides a sense of meaning that transcends one's circumstances. Meditate and strengthen your ability to control attention. The ability to consciously direct one's attention and focus is critical to enjoying life and achieving flow. Meditation and mindfulness practices help develop this skill. Value life for its own sake. Appreciate life as an end in itself rather than depending on external conditions or events for happiness and meaning. See each moment as meaningful and valuable. In summary, while material conditions matter to a degree, one's subjective experience quality ultimately depends on one's mindset and approach to life. By developing specific skills and an autotelic personality, one can find purpose and meaning regardless of circumstances. A life well lived emerges from the ability to turn chaos into order through the focused control of consciousness. It is naive to claim that one can be happy no matter what happens. There are limits to how much adversity a person can endure. However, our mindset and attitude have a significant influence on our bodies and health. Those who can find purpose and meaning even in difficult situations are better able to cope with adversity. Studies of people with paraplegia and blind individuals found that many could transform their tragedy into an opportunity to find greater meaning and purpose in life. For example, Lucio, who is paraplegia, said his accident was like being born again and gave him a clarity of purpose he lacked before. Franco, also a paraplegic, found meaning in helping others with disabilities. Pilar, blind since age 12, said losing her sight freed her from a bad home life and made her life more rewarding. Paulo, blind, has worked to overcome his limitations and lives an active life teaching music and competing in sports. Even homeless individuals, who live complicated lives, could find meaning and flow in their experiences. For example, Rayed, an Egyptian man who has lived as a vagrant since 1967, described his life as a journey of self-discovery in which he has been able to remain focused within himself. He sees life as a struggle to find oneself. Despite living without a home, he has found purpose and meaning. In summary, while there are limits to how much adversity people can face, one's mindset and ability to find purpose and meaning, even in challenging circumstances, allow many to overcome and even transform tragedy into opportunities for growth. The ability to find flow and control one's consciousness emerges as key. The speaker went through many difficult experiences in various Middle Eastern countries over 20 years of traveling. However, he was able to maintain his concentration and find meaning through prayer and faith in God. He believes one should accept one's fate and not struggle against it. He seeks inner freedom and enlightenment rather than material gains or status. Psychologists study how people cope with stress and difficulties. 3 factors determine someone's ability to manage: external supports like social connections, money, insurance, etc. These only help if the person can also help themselves. Psychological traits like intelligence, education, and personality. These are primarily fixed and hard to change. Coping strategies, the approaches people take to dealing with challenges. These are the most important and flexible factors. There are 2 main coping strategies: mature/transformational coping, staying calm, logically analyzing the situation, redefining the problem, and finding solutions. This leads to overcoming challenges and personal growth. Immature/regressive coping, withdrawing, denying the problem, displacing frustration onto others, substance abuse, etc. This leads to avoiding challenges and stagnating. Most people use a mix of both strategies, but some are better able to use mature coping predominantly. Those who do are admired for their courage, resilience, and ability to overcome hardship. They are able to find meaning even under challenging circumstances. The passage discusses the importance of courage and the ability to cope with adversity. It highlights several examples of courageous individuals, including a camp counselor who stayed calm and organized a successful rescue when a swimmer went missing, a female executive who persevered in a problematic, sexist work environment, Ignaz Semmelweis, a physician who insisted doctors wash their hands to save lives, despite ridicule from peers. The author argues that courage and the ability to transform adversity into a challenge are essential virtues. Without these abilities, we would be bombarded by adverse events and chaos. The ability to extract order from chaos, as in dissipative structures, is critical to life and technology. For the psyche, the ability to take adverse events and turn them into positive ones is essential to growth and integrity. Without this ability, the self stops growing and retreats behind defenses. The peak of this ability develops in late adolescence, around age 17 to 18, as teens gain the perspective that adverse events are survivable and shared. 3 steps are involved in transforming hopeless situations: unself-conscious self-assurance, belief that one's destiny is in their control, without ego or insistence on one's own goals. A sense of being part of one's environment. Centering of attention on the opportunities rather than the obstacles. This allows one to reframe a hopeless situation in a more positive light. Discovery of new solutions through trial and error. The situation is treated as something to be mastered rather than avoided. New options and responses are discovered through persistence. In summary, the passage highlights why courage and the ability to thrive in adversity are so necessary. With examples and explanations, the author fleshes out how this ability develops and the process through which negative situations can be transformed. People can become so obsessed with achieving their goals that they fail to cope effectively with frustrations and obstacles. A better approach is to recognize the limitations of the situation and either form alternative plans or find alternative solutions. This requires trusting oneself, one's environment, and one's ability to respond to challenges. People who can transform stress into enjoyable challenges spend little time worrying about themselves or their desires. Instead, they focus their attention outward on the environment, which allows them to be open to alternative possibilities and solutions. Paying close attention to the environment helps in several ways. It reduces the disruptive effects of frustration by preventing one from focusing on one's internal turmoil. It allows one to understand the properties of the system better so one can find better ways of adapting. It fosters a sense of unity with one's surroundings which can transform adversity into challenge. Examples show how excess concern for safety and goal achievement can blind one to alternative solutions and opportunities for action that are literally within one's grasp. There are 2 basic ways to cope with situations that create inner turmoil or psychic entropy. Focus on removing obstacles to one's goals. The direct approach, focus on the whole situation to discover alternative plans and solutions. The indirect method. The indirect approach requires one not to take one's needs and desires too seriously so one has enough attentional availability to seek out realistic options and new opportunities for growth and enjoyment. Almost any situation presents opportunities for growth if one is open to perceiving unexpected possibilities. However, most people need to be more flexible in their habitual ways of thinking to perceive these opportunities. Living according to genetic and social instructions works when things are going well, but when those goals are frustrated, people must create new plans and activities or else suffer inner turmoil. Discovering new goals and strategies is similar to how an artist creates an original work of art. If you remain open to possibilities and your environment, responsive to your feelings, and pay attention to what's happening, new goals will emerge. However, if you rigidly hold on to preconceived notions of what you want, you'll fail to discover more fulfilling paths. Outside forces don't determine whether adversity can be enjoyable. It depends on how you interpret and respond to events, as threats or as challenges. Someone who enjoys life and finds meaning has an autotelic self, one that translates potential threats into enjoyable challenges and maintains inner harmony. To develop an autotelic self, set clear goals to strive for, ranging from significant life commitments to small decisions. The choice of plans implies recognizing challenges, which indicate necessary skills, which require monitoring feedback. An autotelic person chooses their own goals and modifies them as needed. Become immersed in the activity. Choose a system of action that matches your skills and opportunities. Don't have unrealistic expectations or stagnate from a lack of trust in yourself. Pay attention to what's happening. Concentration leads to involvement, which requires constant attention. Notice the environment, other people, and your own feelings and reactions. Find ways to keep improving your skills. An autotelic self is never done growing and continuously improves its ability to translate potential threats into enjoyable challenges. Growth and progress keep life meaningful. Develop an attitude of flexibility, humility, and humor in the face of challenges or setbacks. An autotelic self can laugh at their mistakes and imperfections, learn from them, and not be overly discouraged or judgmental. The ability to enjoy life and experience flow depends on achieving an autotelic self. An autotelic self implies the ability to sustain involvement in activities and interactions. It requires determining clear goals, developing skills, learning to concentrate, and overcoming self-consciousness. However, experiencing flow in individual activities is not enough to give life deep meaning and purpose. One must transform all of life into a unified flow experience. This involves adopting an overarching and compelling goal that provides order and connects all individual flow activities. Such a goal can give life with coherence and meaning, even if the purpose is not inherent in life itself. While a life may have no pre-existing meaning, individuals and cultures can create meaning and purpose for themselves. Any goal that provides clear objectives and rules for action, and allows one to concentrate and become deeply involved, can serve to create meaning. For some, religious faith provides such a goal and a sense of life's meaning. For others, definition must be developed independently by adopting a challenging and compelling purpose. In summary, achieving an autotelic self through flow is not sufficient for optimal experience and meaningful life. One must also connect individual flow experiences within an overarching framework by pursuing a goal that is compelling and challenging enough to order and unify one's entire life. With such a goal, any activity can become purposeful, and life itself can be transformed into a unified flow experience. There are three main ways to think about the meaning of meaning. Purpose. Meaning refers to the end goal or significance of something. This suggests that events are connected in a purposeful, orderly fashion. Finding a purpose or meaning in life involves having challenging goals that focus one's attention and energy. Intention. Meaning refers to a person's intentions or motives. This suggests that people act in consistent, orderly ways to achieve their goals. Resolving to pursue one's purpose or goals is critical to creating meaning. Ordering information. Meaning refers to making connections between concepts or events. This helps create order and clarify information. Achieving harmony between one's thoughts, feelings, and actions creates inner order and meaning. Cultivating purpose. Resolutely pursuing that purpose, and achieving harmony and inner order are the three steps to creating meaning in life. Having an overarching, unifying purpose that gives significance to all of one's goals and activities is critical to achieving a meaningful flow experience in life. Different cultures and time periods have proposed other ultimate purposes, like achieving immortality, eternal life, sensual pleasure, spiritual transcendence, or ideal virtues. But in each case, dedicating oneself wholly to the goal can imbue one's life with meaning. The main takeaway is that meaning arises from integrating one's consciousness and focusing one's psychic energy through purpose, resolution, and harmony. A meaningful life is one characterized by the flow. The critical points in the summary are: cultures and individuals can be characterized by whether they emphasize sensate, focused on sensory experiences and material rewards, or ideational, focused on spiritual or ideological principles. Most cultures and individuals incorporate elements of both. An idealistic culture or individual is able to integrate sensational and ideational principles in a balanced way, gaining the benefits of each while avoiding the disadvantages. This is a complex and sophisticated approach. Individuals develop their sense of meaning and purpose in life through a series of stages of increasing complexity, focus on survival and physical needs, adopting the values of their community or group, developing a sense of individual autonomy and personal growth, integrating their interests with some larger purpose beyond themselves. Not all individuals progress through all of these stages. Many remain focused primarily on physical needs or group values. Only a few reach the highest levels of complexity that integrate self-actualization and transcendent purpose. This progression involves a spiral of ascending complexity through which individuals develop more significant differentiation, unique traits, and integration, relationships between features. This yields life games with different, increasingly complex goals and challenges. The specific number of stages is less critical than recognizing this general dialectical process of differentiation and integration by which individuals can gain an increasingly sophisticated sense of meaning. In summary, The key themes are the distinction between sensational and ideational orientations, the possibility of an idealistic integration of these, the developmental progression to higher levels of complexity and meaning, and the dialectical mechanism by which this progression can occur. But at any given time, there are a variety of ways that cultures and individuals can find purpose and meaning at different levels of complexity. The author discusses that achieving a sense of inner harmony and order requires effort and purpose. It is relatively easy to experience flow in the short term through enjoyable activities, challenges, and emergencies. However, extending a sense of flow and order through one's entire life requires striving towards meaningful life goals and maintaining courage in the face of opposition or obstacles. The natural human state may have once been one of inner peace, but modern human consciousness has introduced new forms of disorder, such as unfulfilled desires, anxiety, and guilt. While animals can achieve a sense of flow and order by acting based on their biologically programmed instincts, humans must create meaning and harmony through reason and choice. Options and complexity increase over a human lifetime, making the spontaneous flow more difficult to achieve over time. Though more straightforward modes of consciousness may appear serene, humanity cannot recover the innocence of the past. Instead, individuals must unify meaning in life through purpose and resolve. Life themes and operative strivings provide goals and meaning to a person's life. They give a sense of purpose and help determine what is significant or worthwhile to the person. A life theme is like a game with rules that guide a person's actions and experience of flow. It provides transparent feedback on whether the person is progressing toward or away from their ultimate goal. This helps give existence meaning and a sense of coherence. Life themes can be authentic, chosen freely based on personal experience, or inauthentic, chosen to meet social expectations. Original life themes lead to more flow and meaning. Discovered life themes are created through a personal struggle to find purpose and meaning. They are idiosyncratic and can be seen as unconventional by others. Accepted life themes reflect socially prescribed roles and are more vulnerable to negative influences from society. Life themes often emerge from a reaction to suffering or trauma in a person's life. The interpretation of the suffering, not the event itself, determines the life theme. Explanations that frame suffering as a challenge that can be overcome can lead to more complex and meaningful life themes. Life themes that generalize solutions to the problems of humanity or groups beyond oneself tend to be the most negentropic and provide meaning. They bring greater harmony not just to the individual but to the lives of many. Examples of discovered life themes include: developed a life theme of fighting injustice and helping the disadvantaged after suffering a traumatic accident as a child. He became a lawyer and public servant to address the challenges he saw. Malcolm X originally followed the expected life of a hustler but, in prison, discovered a new identity and purpose of empowering marginalized groups. In summary, life themes provide a sense of purpose by identifying a set of goals that give significance and meaning to a person's thoughts, actions, and life. Authentic, discovered life themes that frame suffering as a shared human challenge and seek to benefit humanity tend to be the most meaningful and lead to the greatest well-being. Gottfried, a scientist who lost his mother to cancer as a child, channeled his grief into motivation to find a cure. Rather than become depressed or cynical, Gottfried viewed cancer as his personal enemy and devoted his life to defeating it. He became an oncologist, and his research has helped advance the fight against cancer. This is an example of how suffering can motivate great responses rather than dysfunctional ones. While trauma often leads to psychic difficulties, it can also encourage people to become artists, leaders, or scientists. The constructive response is not a defense but a choice to find meaning and purpose. There are many factors influencing whether people find meaning and purpose. External factors like poverty or disability make it more difficult but not impossible, as evidenced by figures like Gramsci, who overcame immense hardship. The fundamental strategy for finding meaning is using knowledge and examples from culture and history. Stories from parents and role models in childhood are incredibly formative. Books, music, art, philosophy, and religion also provide ordered information to help combat chaos. For example, literature can provide models of lives patterned around purpose and meaning. A social scientist was inspired as a teen by A Tale of Two Cities to study why people hurt each other. A philanthropic banker was inspired by a Horatio Alger story that if he could do it, why not me? Plato's dialogues or science fiction can also inspire. Even a 600-year-old work like Dante's Inferno can provide insight into the midlife crisis and its resolution. It begins midway through the journey of life in a dark forest. Beasts representing ambition, lust, and greed threaten Dante, like the desire for power, sex, and money in contemporary stories. Dante's prayer is answered by the ghost of his mentor Virgil, offering guidance. The report suggests we look to enduring works of culture for models and meaning. The main idea is that there may be a way out of the meaningless, entropic aspects of life represented by the dark forest, but the path leads through great difficulties, represented by hell. The story of Dante's Divine Comedy is used as an allegory. In the story, Dante travels through hell, purgatory, and heaven, witnessing the sufferings of those who did not choose a purposeful path in life as well as those who deliberately decided to spread chaos. Although the story is ancient, it resonated with modern business executives because it highlights the issues of finding meaning and purpose in life, especially in middle age and beyond. Dante's story is a good model because although it is based on Christianity, Dante combined insights from Christianity with those of Greek philosophy and Islamic wisdom. Dante recognized that religious institutions are subject to entropy and corruption, so individuals must compare spiritual teachings to their own experience, accept what is true and reject the rest. Although traditional religions help some, many people today cannot reconcile religious teachings with their experience and knowledge. A new belief system is needed to provide meaning, one based on science and evolution. Science can help by providing an integrated understanding of reality and human existence. Viewing life through the lens of development offers a sense of where we came from and where we might go, toward increasing complexity and consciousness. The next stage of human development requires integrating the differentiation of consciousness that has occurred over human history with the realization of interconnection, how we are related to each other and the universe. Recognizing the limitations of human will and accepting a cooperative rather than domineering role in the universe can help resolve the problem of meaning and connect the individual to the flow of the universe. In summary, the key ideas are, there may be a path out of meaninglessness, but the journey is difficult. Dante's Divine Comedy provides an allegory for the journey, and Dante is a good model for finding meaning. Traditional religions no longer help many people find meaning. A new belief system incorporating science and evolution may allow. The next stage of human development requires integrating differentiation of consciousness with interconnection. Recognizing human limitations and cooperating with the flow of the universe can help find meaning. The flow experience and the research methods, experience sampling method, used to study it were developed by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is the state of optimal experience characterized by intense focus, loss of self-consciousness, and time distortion. It happens when people are engaged in intrinsically motivated activities that match their skills. Goals have regained credibility as explanations for human behavior in some areas of psychology. Csikszentmihalyi argues that plans lead to a sense of control and shape optimal experience. Discussions of optimal experience often start by reviewing the problems and dangers of human existence to provide context. Chaos and disorder are a backdrop for meaning and purpose. There is a hierarchy of needs from basic survival to self-actualization. As lower needs are met, people pursue more complex goals. However, expectations also tend to escalate, and people often perceive a gap between what they have and what they want. Culture provides a defense against chaos by giving life meaning and purpose. But cultures also typically believe they are the center of the universe. There is an underlying anxiety about existence. Meaning comes from relating experiences to goals and perceiving order. Religion and the supernatural have traditionally helped provide sense, though some argue religion is declining. There are trends of increasing social problems like violence, addiction, and mental health issues. Adolescents, in particular, seem to be at risk with higher rates of suicide, homicide, and other issues. However, adolescence has always been seen as a troublesome stage. Only about 20% of teens today can be considered truly troubled. Socialization is the process by which culture shapes individual experiences and provides meaning. But individuals also shape culture through their thoughts and actions. There is a reciprocal relationship between the individual and culture. Freud discussed the necessity to delay gratification in society and civilization and its discontents, 1930. Brown, 1959, criticized Freud's arguments. Standard works on socialization include Clausen, 1968, and Ziegler and Damp, Child, 1973. A study of socialization in adolescence is Csikszentmihalyi and Damp, Larson, 1984. Examples of using chemical dependencies for social control include the Spaniards introducing rum and brandy to Central America, the use of whiskey to take American Indian land, and the Chinese Opium Wars. Marcuse discussed social control through sexuality. Dawkins, 1976, said genes act for their benefit, not the organisms. Csikszentmihalyi and Damp, Massimini, 1985, and Csikszentmihalyi, 1988, present another view. Many traditions discuss paths to liberation, for example, yoga, Jewish mysticism, Greek humanism, Stoicism, and Hegel. Contemporary philosophers include Tilak and Sartre. McIntyre's, 1984, view of virtue is similar to flow. Control of consciousness includes the four manifestations of self-control in Klausner, 1965. Techniques include yogi disciplines and holistic medicine. Gendlin, 1981, developed focusing. This book presents an analysis and examples so readers can build their own methods. The argument that routinization limits consciousness is like Weber's, 1922, routinization of charisma and Hegel's idea of the world of the spirit turning into the world of nature. Consciousness has been central to philosophy and religion. Psychology abandoned studying it, but some recent interest. Historical summaries in Boring, 1953, and Klausner, 1965. Introspective behaviorism by Smith, 1969, is similar to the view here, but this book focuses on subjective experience. Phenomenological means influenced by thinkers like Husserl, Heidegger, Sartre, and Merleau-Ponty, but the argument stands alone. The Sinoy of Malaysia reportedly learns to control dreams, showing one can own consciousness even in sleep. Lucid dreaming tries to control thoughts in sleep. Miller, 1956, proposed the number of bits we can process at once. Studies show the limits of attention and what's required for perception, memory, speech, etc. Time-use studies include Salai, 1965, and ESM studies showing how people spend time and feel during activities like TV watching. Philosophers and psychologists have long discussed the processes of consciousness, like thoughts, emotions, will, and memory. Energetic approaches include Wundt and Jung. Contemporary techniques include Kahneman, Csikszentmihalyi, and Hoffman et al. Attention and culture, examples include Melanesian spatial memory and Eskimo snow words. Many theories of the self, from Mead and Jung to self-concept and self-efficacy. The view here is influenced by various sources. Psychologists have studied negative emotions extensively, usually assuming each feeling is separate. This book looks at the flow of consciousness, including disorder. Flow experiences arise from optimal challenges that match a person's skills and abilities. This leads to a loss of self-consciousness and a distortion of time. Flow is crucial for complex learning and adult development. When in flow, people can achieve more complex forms of order and niche entropy in their minds. Flow also provides intrinsic motivation and enjoyment in activities. Flow is an autotelic experience, meaning it is rewarding in itself. People often describe flow experiences as highly enjoyable, even euphoric at times. However, flow is different from pleasure or ecstasy. Flow arises from the activity itself rather than external rewards. There are several conditions that foster flow experiences: clear goals and immediate feedback. People know what they want to achieve and can monitor how well they are doing. Challenges match skills. The activity is challenging but still within the person's abilities. If challenges outweigh skills, anxiety results. If skills outweigh challenges, boredom results. Focused concentration. People become deeply immersed in the activity. Their attention is focused on what they are doing in the present moment. Sense of control. People feel a sense of control over their actions and environment. They do not feel self-conscious or worry about failure. Loss of self-consciousness. People become less aware of themselves and their problems, losing their sense of self. Their whole being is focused on the activity. Distorted sense of time. People's sense of time becomes distorted. Hours can pass in minutes. Flow can happen during work, social interactions, hobbies, creative endeavors, and other activities. Reading, music, art, sports, and games are familiar sources of flow for many people. Flow contributes to enjoyment, motivation, and well-being in life. Original artists discover the direction of their work through an open-ended process of feedback and development. Less original artists have a fixed idea of the work they want to produce and miss opportunities for the work to grow. To succeed, original artists need internalized criteria to evaluate their developing work. Different people have a facility for other talents or multiple intelligences. Feedback is essential for developing skills, especially for blind people. Flow activities, like rock climbing, provide both enjoyment and a loss of self-consciousness. However, losing oneself entirely in an action can be dangerous. Balance is needed between differentiation and integration. Flow enhances one's complexity and well-being. Most people report dissatisfaction with work and leisure, but flow provides intrinsic rewards. However, addiction to flow is possible. Play, especially imaginative play, provides opportunities for the loss of self-consciousness and flow. Mimicry, ritual disguise, and role-playing allow escape from ordinary experience. Flow and play promote discovery and learning. In summary, flow and play facilitate both enjoyment and personal growth. While somewhat risky, They are overall beneficial in promoting well-being, learning, creativity, and complexity. Balance and moderation are needed to maximize benefits and avoid potential downsides like addiction. Here is a summary of the key points about flow activities. Flow experiences lead to the growth of the self through activities that challenge a person's skills. Studies show people who experience more flow tend to have a more positive self-concept. Rituals and religious activities are often conducive to flow experiences. Flow can be found in aesthetic experiences like art and music. The types of flow activities a culture promotes can reflect the values of that culture. There is a modest correlation between wealth and happiness. But after basic needs are met, more money does not necessarily lead to more flow and satisfaction. Flow experiences depend more on a person's skills and challenges, not external factors. Lack of flow can be linked to certain psychopathologies like schizophrenia, as well as social issues like enemy, alienation, anxiety, and boredom. Optimal flow depends on achieving a balance of challenges that match a person's skills. Flow activities are linked to increased cortical activation and mental effort. Families and environments that promote an optimal balance of skills and challenges tend to raise children better able to experience flow. People of flow are those able to turn difficult life circumstances into flow experiences. Examples include prisoners, survivors of traumas, and those facing physical hardships. They are able to focus their mind and transform the situation into a meaningful challenge. Many rituals, festivals, and sports have elements of flow. But superficial interpretations of sublimation suggest these activities are just substitutes for unmet desires. A better view sees these activities as meaningful in themselves, not just disguised urges. They provide real opportunities for growth and flow. The view that human motivation is reducible to a few basic drives, like pleasure-seeking, fails to account for uniquely human behaviors and accomplishments. Humans have evolved the capacity for enjoyment as a mechanism to motivate progress and complexity. Enjoyment motivates humans to push beyond the present and realize new potential. It makes no sense to assume that only pleasure-seeking is natural. The rewards of achieving new goals are just as genuine. Throughout history, humans have cultivated increasingly refined and complex forms of enjoyment through sexuality, art, music, reading, puzzles, and more. These cultivated enjoyments organize experience and provide flow. The normal state of the human mind tends toward chaos and disorder. We need external stimulation and structured activities to organize our consciousness and experience flow. Enjoyable, complex activities that provide clear goals, feedback, and the opportunity to adjust challenges to skills are what allow us to achieve an ordered, flowing state of mind. In short, humans have an innate drive not just for pleasure but for the progressive organization of the self. Enjoyment of complex flow activities satisfies this drive. Cultures evolve by developing new opportunities for flow and structuring human activities around them. Television viewing and daydreaming experiences have been studied using the experience sampling method, ESM, by Csikszentmihalyi, Larson, and others. Mental imagery, including daydreaming, has been studied by Singer and others. Trance seems outside of our volitional control. Some cultures, like Melanesian tribes, assign the elders and chiefs the task of memorizing ancestral names and clan histories. This is seen as necessary for cultural continuity. Riddles, rhymes, and rote learning were common ways of remembering and transmitting information before literacy. Though rote learning is now seen as unimportant, it allowed for the preservation of cultural knowledge. Mnemonic devices and other techniques can be used to improve memory, even though remembering seems primarily outside of our control. The ancient Greeks, like Archytas, speculated about memory. Mathematics, science, religion, governance, and other cultural institutions originated as enjoyable games and were played before becoming more rigid and rule-bound. This applies to the development of metallurgy and other technologies as well. Conversation helps maintain a culture's symbolic universe. Poetry and other arts can be taught to people of all backgrounds. Some artists and writers seem prone to depression and mental illness, though this may be due to cultural expectations and the difficulties of their social roles, not creativity itself. Views on artists' temperaments have changed over time. Personal narratives and memories of one's past are essential for identity and predicting future behavior. People cherish objects in their homes that represent memories and experiences. Kuhn described how scientific revolutions overthrow existing paradigms. Flow theory could help explain how new ideas, practices, and products are adopted. Cultural changes may be driven by the enjoyment and flow of experiences they provide. Though flow does not directly cause success or achievement, successful and creative people often report intense enjoyment of their work. Flow experiences could contribute to success by sustaining motivation, effort, and persistence. Students who enjoyed a writing task produced essays that were more enjoyable to read, controlling for ability. This suggests that flow leads to better outcomes. In her free time, one woman noticed a pattern of arthritis in local children and alerted doctors, leading to the discovery of Lyme disease. This shows that amateurs can contribute to knowledge. The author recommends major works in ontology, ethics, and aesthetics by philosophers like Kant, Husserl, Nietzsche, and Aristotle. The Great Book series is also recommended as an introduction. Poor agricultural policies in Soviet Russia led to food shortages. Complexity and development. Most psychology avoids values, but some see complexity as a goal of human growth. An example is a woman who finds satisfaction in difficult farm work. Criticism. Some say the flow is Western, unlike the Chinese concept of you. But flow is reported across cultures. An example is Navajo shepherds. Surgeons and weavers report flow in their work. Studies show most U.S. workers need to report flow in their jobs or leisure. Appointments may be easier to enjoy than unstructured leisure. Interacting with others improves experience and mood. We depend on public opinion and the judgments of others. Being with others was essential to ancient philosophers and was necessary for well-being. Interacting with others activates the brain's reward centers, like food and sex. Even baboons and other primates seek out social interaction. Studies show teens find social interaction both enjoyable and anxiety-producing. People are flexible in what they find motivating and engaging. Here's a summary of the key points. Communication skills are crucial for managers. Data from a study of middle managers showed that better communication is the top strength they want to develop. Etiquette. Books that give unrealistic advice about social life and relationships. Examples are provided, including quotes showing the dubious advice. Human relationships are flexible and can be changed. This view is central to some sociological and family therapy approaches. People often have emotional difficulties on Sunday mornings. Psychoanalysts attributed this to complicated causes, but it may be because people have little to do and feel intolerably solitary. There is an enormous amount of research on television viewing. The author takes the view that it generally makes people passive and discontented. Based on interviews with artists, drugs do not expand consciousness or enhance creativity. The example of Coleridge writing Kubla Khan is disputed. Talented teenagers often fail to develop their skills because they cannot tolerate being alone, not due to cognitive deficits. Studies show gifted students who continue their pursuits spend more time studying and practicing and less socializing than those who do not continue. Close kinship groups and the nuclear family have been civilizing influences on humankind. Sociobiologists argue that monogamy and the stable two-parent family have advantages for child rearing. Suburban teen life in the U.S. often lacks freedom and opportunities for self-respect. Teenagers spend little quality time with their parents, especially fathers. The high rates of teen pregnancy and other issues are noted. Families that provide opportunities for flow experiences facilitate the development of autotelic personalities in children. When with friends, teenagers, and adults report very positive moods and self-esteem but lower concentration and cognitive efficiency. Patterns of public drinking enable different kinds of social interaction. Expressive versus instrumental behavior. Expressive behavior refers to actions aimed at experiencing and expressing emotions. Instrumental behavior refers to efforts aimed at achieving practical goals and outcomes. Expressive conduct is essential for well-being, but contemporary society offers few opportunities for explicit behavior within societal boundaries. Politics and personal growth. Politics, as defined by Hannah Arendt, provide impartial feedback that allows for personal gain, creativity, and self-revelation. The public realm of political interaction is the best medium for these things. The irrationality of economics. According to Max Weber, economic behavior aimed at increasing happiness becomes irrational when it develops autonomous goals separate from human well-being. The economic activity becomes an iron cage rather than a means to an end. Stress and coping. Stress refers to the demands on the body and mind, both positive and negative. Social supports and coping styles mediate the effects of stress. Hardiness refers to the tendency to view stresses as challenges rather than threats. Transformational coping skills, mature defenses, and autotelic traits help in this. The emergence of self through experience. A complex self emerges from a person's interactions and experiences in the world, just as a creative work of art emerges from the interaction of the artist's skills and materials. Setting goals, extremely long-term or short-term goals could be more satisfying. Optimal plans provide both challenges and opportunities for flow. Development of meaning. Cultures can be characterized based on their primary sources of importance, such as the eternal, the immortal, or more secular pursuits. Self-development also follows a spiral in which focus alternates between the self and the social environment. Consciousness and inner life. Consciousness likely emerged from increasing connections between the left and right brain hemispheres. The inner, emotional lives of animals, significantly higher primates, are subject to debate, but some evidence suggests primates can experience emotions without concrete stimuli. The consciousness of pre-literate people is debated. Some argued they lacked self-reflection and conformity was enforced, while others that they showed philosophical sophistication. This debate is unresolved. The complexity of social roles and interactions may have led to the complexity of human consciousness, as argued by several theorists. Concepts like Sartre's project, Allport's appropriate strivings, and life themes, or central problems one wishes to solve, shape consciousness. Examples are in the works of Eichmann, Malcolm X, and Gramsci. Cultural evolution and the transfer of attention from self to others may aid personal growth. Religion and science based on development may provide meaning. Many scholars think understanding evolution, human goals, and universal laws can provide a new system of meaning. But change does not guarantee progress. Whether humankind continues evolving depends on the choices we make. Consciousness depends on a person's experiences, goals, and values, all products of culture and upbringing. Cultural and social evolution shape human consciousness. Book link click here.